Hey guys, welcome back. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Jake. Heather is holding the camera. We're Jake and Heather with Go and Live Free, and this is going to be part 2 of our van tour. We've had a lot of great feedback on the first one, and we want to kind of dive into the details here with this video. So we're going to go around the van, and I'm going to tell you about all the working systems we have in the van, how we're able to go off-grid for a week at a time, and let's go ahead and get to it. So in the first video, we didn't talk too much about the Mega Roof, which was kind of a mistake because this is kind of a rare model, and it's one of the reasons we have so much space on the inside is because this is a Mega Roof model with a fiberglass topper giving us an extra 12 inches of space on the inside. So I don't know if you can kind of see this up here is not normally on other Sprinter vans. So this was a unique model. They didn't make a whole bunch of them. So when we found it, we knew this was the one we had to have. So that gives us a lot of extra space. Let's move on to the front here. So if you come around to the front of the van here, you'll notice the entire van is tan, and I sprayed the entire van with Raptor bed liner. It helps kind of protect it against rust and scratches. Kind of looks rugged, and really we just like the look of it. We didn't want a plain old white van. The front headlights were also replaced, and we put LEDs in them so we can see better at night. And we have a light bar down here on the front so that when we're on dark roads at night, we can flip that on. Gives us better viewing, and we can see what's in front of us. We come around this way. These tires did not come stock with the van. You gotta just step down. Heather's getting used to working the gimbal. So these tires didn't come stock with the van. We decided to put these on. They'll give us better traction off-road. Obviously they're a little knobbier. These are Falcons Wild Peak all-terrains, and the size we went with are LT 235s 85 by 16, which is the rim size. And we have, this is 3500, so it's dually, so those actually fit on the back as well. Pretty close gap. There's not a whole lot of space in between the tires, but it seemed to be the largest size that we could run without any issues. So far, no complaints, super quiet on the road, and I mean, so far they've done well off-road, but we haven't taken them in any snow yet. But hopefully they hold up well in the snow as well. All right, so coming over here, we get a lot of questions about this bar and what it's used for. We installed this bar so that we can use our TRX bands, which we keep up here, connect to this bar here. That way we can use this to work out with. It doubles as a pull-up bar. You can get your morning hangs in like this. Also do abs. So it's just kind of the center of our mobile workout station. So that's been super useful, really easy. It's just galvanized pipe from Home Depot, through bolted into the top. Let me know if you guys want to know more about it. I can kind of write up a materials list and little how-to tutorial, but come on, let's keep coming in the back. So the windows in this van were already installed when we bought it, so we didn't have to install this window or the ones in the back, but we did have them tinted, so we did 5% limo tint. Just helps keep out the sun, some more privacy, and yeah, pretty happy with that. These windows were installed by me. This was just straight panel back here. We found these on Amazon. We wanted to go with there were nicer ones that were a little longer, and they kind of had a couple more features, but everything was sold out. So found these on Amazon, and they've worked really well. And my buddy Blake works, he actually installs windows on yachts, and he was able to give me a nice silicone job on these. So these have not leaked and should never leak. This is our fresh water tank fill up here with a little locking cap, and that's so nobody can tamper with our fresh water system. Coming around to the back of the van, these are where we keep all the toys. On this build, we decided not to keep everything under the bed in the garage, simply because we have a bunch of other stuff that's in there, so it actually wasn't plausible to keep mountain bikes back there. In the garage, we have 2 inflatable paddle boards, all of our winter clothes. We keep all of our clothes for all climates with us at all times, so it's mostly used for storage under the bed. So that's how we ended up with this back rack. This is a Black Widow motorcycle carrier. Goes into the hitch receiver of the back of the van. Holds this WR250X really well. We haven't had any issues. We've done almost 10,000 miles with it on the back now, and no wiggles, no problem. I do have it supported. I made this bar here just with a piece of square grade steel. That way I can get a nice anchor mount to the side of the handlebars. The two mountain bikes kind of sit back, squeezed in between the van and the dirt bike, as well as we have over here is our portable inverter generator, and this is so that we can run the AC unit unlimitedly. This just runs off gas. It's really quiet, and if we want to use the AC you know, for days at a time, we can. So that's been helpful. We actually haven't used it too much yet. We got it at the end of summer. It was a little late, but I'm sure as we meander down to Florida, we'll be using it more. So that's why we have it with us. Like I said, the back windows were already installed in the van. Honestly, I don't even think we need them. We always keep the covers on the back of the van, usually because the only time we're hanging out in the bed is it's nighttime, so the insulation shade covers are already there. So anyways, they came with the van, and I don't know, it's kind of, if you're building a van yourself and you're thinking about installing back windows, one thing to think about is if you're going to use them or not. If you have you know, a sitting area in the back or something and you like to get some natural light, I would recommend them. If your bed's back there, I wouldn't waste your time. Keep on moving. Up top, you can see our solar panels and the AC unit. Those are all mounted to the fiberglass topper. I also get a lot of questions how the fiberglass holds up to supporting the weight. So far, no issues. The AC unit did go between two braces, and I reinforced it with wood, but other than that, I mean, the solar panels weigh nothing and they're pretty low profile, so they haven't given us any issues at all. So we'll come on to the front door here, and I gotta go unlock it. So there's a couple of unique things in the front of the van here. One thing is I painted the pedestals of the seats black. Originally the whole van was white, so we painted those black. Just a simple little thing, but it makes a big difference. I think it looks a lot nicer. As well as I rewrapped the steering wheel just with some fresh leather, and that was a pretty quick and easy DIY solution to the old steering wheel was all gross and crusty, so that's a lot nicer. And these seats, well, I'll let Heather tell you about these seats.
All right, thanks Jake. Let's talk about the seats. So I wanted the seats reupholstered. That was one of my number one to-dos on the van list when we were building it out. So we actually found somebody on Facebook Marketplace who reupholstered the seats for us. This is all marine vinyl. They're super durable. Obviously Scout gets up on them. And, no scratches, everything's looking good. We also installed seat warmers in there because we're gonna go out west for ski season and we wanna make sure we stay warm. So seat warmers were also a must, and they're honestly one of my favorite parts of the van.
All right, so that about wraps up the exterior of the van. The only last thing is we did, when we replaced the engine, I tuned and deleted it, and we put a custom exhaust. So we shouldn't run into any emission troubles, which these vans seem to be notorious for. So we did do that. Hopefully no more issues going forward. Let's go ahead and we'll go inside and we'll start talking about all the systems. We'll go ahead and we'll talk electrical. All right, so let's talk electrical. For our build, we went with 800 amp hours of lithium batteries. That's the kind of center, the core of our electrical system. We wanted it to be large enough to power us off-grid for multiple days at a time. I mean, at least a week before we even have to think about turning the van on, at least as long as it's sunny and we're getting plenty through solar. So taking you through our system, we have the 800 amp hours of lithium. From there, we have a 3000 watt inverter by Renergy. And that is powerful enough to power everything such as our Vitamix blender, the AC, our laptops. So that inverter really allows the van to feel like a normal home, and we have 120 outlets and we can plug just about anything into there. Also coming from the battery bank is our DC fuse box. Everything that's DC, which is 12 volt, which is what our battery bank is, runs directly to the fuse box and is fused independently. Things such as our Dometic fridge is a 12-volt fridge. The stove, the igniter, and the lights run off 12 volt. Things like our puck lights in the ceiling, as well as some chargers and water pump. Our water pump, which we'll talk about in our water stuff, is also 12 volt DC. We have 400 watts of solar power on top of the van. That 400 watts of solar goes to our MPPT charger, and what that does is converts the voltage from what's coming into the solar panels down to 12 volts so that we can charge our battery bank with the power of the sun. It's our first time using solar panels, and we were just really amazed by the fact that you can actually power your gadgets from the sun without creating energy any other way. We just thought that was really cool, coming from a house without solar panels. You know, you plug things in the wall, electricity, something you don't really think about, you take it for granted, it just works. Well, with solar panels charging our batteries, it allows us those few extra days. Like I said, it's only 400 watts. We're not bringing in tons and tons of power, but it just kind of prolongs our battery bank and allows us to go a few more days before, having to start the engine or anything like that. Speaking of starting the engine, that is also where we get some of our power. So we have a combo. That's more of a three-way unit, the MPPT DC to DC charger from Renergy. So that allows us to bring power in from the solar panels to the battery bank. It also allows the alternator from the van, so while the van is running, it's also creating power from the alternator and charging the batteries that way, going through the same DC to DC MPPT charger. And then there's a third function that it does. If it detects that the battery bank is a certain voltage, the house battery bank, which controls everything inside the van, it'll actually start charging the starter battery of the van. That way the van battery never runs dead and you're not stranded. Although I kind of made some redundancy there, and with a switch I can actually jumpstart the van battery from our battery bank, just in case that's something we ever needed to do. One of the biggest questions we always get is, can you run the AC off of your battery bank? And the short answer is yes. The long answer is it's complicated. The idea behind it was, since we do have two large dogs in the van with us, and we did find ourselves somewhere on a warm day, we could leave the van for a few hours with the air conditioning on, knowing that the dogs were comfortable, and if we needed to go food shopping or wanted to go on a short hike or go into the gym, we could leave the AC running for the dogs. Now we can also run it for roughly about 14 hours before we're really hurting for power, so you can kind of get 2 nights out of it if you find yourself needing to run the AC overnight. Being on the road, tend to chase the good weather, don't want to be anywhere it's too hot, especially with the 2 dogs. So necessary? No. Are we glad we have it? Yes. Would we prefer a skylight? Probably, but you gotta do what you gotta do when you have dogs. All right, moving on from electrical, let's talk our water system. And that all begins with the 40-gallon water tank that we have under the bed. It's placed over the right wheel well. The batteries for the van are placed on the left wheel well. Kind of helps balance the weight. The lithium's not too heavy, but the shower's also on the left side near the rear axle. So just want to make sure we're balancing the weight so we're not lopsided in the van. So coming from that 40-gallon water tank, we have a reverse osmosis system. This ensures that we always have clean drinking water for us and the dogs. It's very easy to just open the tap. You have fresh drinking water. It's always working. It works in the background. You don't have to worry about it. And it's been really great for us. We can't imagine doing anything else. Also coming from the water tank is our water pump. That actually is before the reverse osmosis, but that allows water pressure to be had in the shower and the sink, and allows our reverse osmosis water system to work. So from the water pump, it pushes water, it goes cold water to the sink, and then it also has a line running from the water pump, cold water, to the hot water heater. And then from the hot water heater, it goes back to the sink so that the sink can have hot water, as well as a line going to the shower. And that gives us hot and cold water in the shower, unlimited, as much as you want to use of the hot water, since it is a propane tankless water heater. So our shower drains through the bottom of the floor of the van and goes into a 20-gallon gray tank, which is undermounted on the van. You can't see that it's there when you look under there unless you really pop your head all the way under, and and look at it, you'll find that there is a 20-gallon gray tank. The sink drain also drains into that gray tank. Reason we went with a gray tank, it's very nice to be stealth if you're parked in somebody's driveway, if you're parked in a parking lot. You don't want to be showering or washing dishes, using the sink, and water's just dumping out of the bottom of your van. We like to collect it and dump it in a place that is a little more discreet, and we're not making a mess wherever we're staying. The last system I want to explain to you guys a little bit and talk about is our propane system. So while we were thinking about putting a stove and oven in the van, we really wanted gas because it's something that we don't have at our home in Florida, and we really love and enjoy cooking with it. But it did kind of freak us out a little bit in the beginning, keeping something flammable inside in such tight quarters. So we did a lot of research. Thanks to Far Out Ride, he has a blog online that gave a ton of information and talked about how safe it can be, and using valves and such that with on and off switches, really allowing you to have a safe way to keep propane inside of the van. And that begins with building a sealed box to hold a 20-pound barbecue tank. Reason we went with one of these tanks instead of mounting something underneath, was for clearance. When you mount a tank underneath the van, if you hit something off road, or you go over a bump, you bottom out, it really lowers the clearance, so there's kind of room for error. Didn't really want to deal with that. And also I had heard from doing some other research that it's not always the easiest to get those tanks filled. Some places don't like filling them because they're under the van, they don't want to crawl under there. Some places just will not accept that and will not fill the tank. So for ease, being able to swap out a barbecue tank, you can do it almost at any supermarket, CVS, everywhere you can get a barbecue tank swapped out. So that's one of the main reasons we went this route. So inside of that box, there is a hole drilled through the floor so that if there was ever to be a leak right there from the bottle of propane, it would, because propane is denser and heavier than air, it will sink to the bottom, therefore sinking out of the hole of the bottom of the van and not collecting flammable gas inside of the van. So once I started to really understand that and that safety measure, I felt okay with putting a propane tank under our bed. So from that propane tank, we have a 12-volt solenoid valve that allows us to turn it on and off, open and close it rather remotely with the switch that we have in our control panel. That allows you to shut the propane off from the system so that you can't accidentally bump one of these knobs on the stove and be leaking propane into the van. Nice little redundancy and safety feature there. Thank you, Far Out Ride. Would have never thought of it, would have never known what to buy. If you want to check them out, I'll leave a link in the description below. If you're thinking about putting propane in your van, you can do it safely. So from the tank, we have a line running to the stove, and that allows the oven and stovetop to have propane. And then we have it runs off of a T, the propane line, and also goes to our hot water heater. Like I said, we have a propane hot water heater system. It's tankless, so you don't have to wait for it to warm up. You run water through it for maybe 30 seconds and it's already hot. Another question we always get about the tankless propane water heater is, do you vent it outside? We do not. It clearly says not to use inside, and that it can be dangerous, and that it really can be. We don't ever use the stove, oven, or the hot water without keeping our vent fan open so that we're ventilating and getting clean airflow coming through the van. But when I really started to think about it, I really thought I needed to vent it outside, but it's not much different than the stove. If anything, it's less, because the stove has 3 burners and there's only 1 burner on the hot water heater. So I'm not really sure why people always freak out. I mean, I do understand, because there's massive warning labels, and I was a little worried myself, but once I really started to think about it, it's no different than using a stove. So if you're using gas inside of your van already, I wouldn't really think twice about using a tankless hot water heater, because it's really no different. Make sure you're ventilating the van, make sure you have a vent fan and a window you can crack, and really you shouldn't have anything to worry about. We haven't had any issues. And so the way I can monitor our propane level, there's this nifty little device. It is a magnet that sticks to the bottom of the propane tank that allows you to use a Bluetooth app with your phone, and you can monitor the level of the tank. That way you know when you're getting close, and you can make sure you can fill back up. Keep in mind, it will never say it's more than 80% full, because propane tanks cannot be filled more than 80% full for safety measures. Thank you guys so much for watching our van tour part 2 edition. Just wanted to run you around the outside, explain some of the features on the outside, go over some details of our systems that allows this to function as a off-grid tiny home. If you want me to go over anything else in specifics, please let me know in a comment down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this, and we will start working on our next video, so we'll see you soon.
Bureau of Land Management. Crazy. You think T-Rexes climb mountains? Seriously, can you just see like one scaling that thing? I guess not though, because they had little arms.